Alright, hey guys, this is Era 404. We're going to be presenting UMarket. I got Jacob and Zachary on a call if y'all want to say hi real quick.
Hello.
Hello.
So, for this presentation, we're going to talk about the purpose of this application, the tools we used, how we're hosting it, and how we're storing the information. Then we're going to go through the demo and go over why we chose the tools that we're using for this application, and then talk about future development. So for the purpose of this application, it's made for university students, just like me, Zach, and Jacob. It's supposed to provide a network for university students where they can buy and sell different items, reducing the potential for scams because only university students can actually use this platform. If you're not a university student, you will not be able to log in or anything like that. It's supposed to be easy to use, has a friendly UI allowing students to easily navigate and purchase items and track the orders that they sell. It's supposed to also be a secure platform, be using Louisiana Tech's central authentication system in order to authenticate users. Now, for the tools, we're using Node.js for the backend, and then for the front end, we're using Vue.js. To handle our transactions, we're using PayPal. To handle our shipping orders, we're using ShipEngine. Then for testing, we're using Jest and Cypress. We're using Jest to handling unit tests, and then Cypress for end-to-end testing. And then to facilitate the overall development process, we're using Azure DevOps, mainly utilizing Azure boards. We have our code in Azure repos, and we utilize Azure pipelines to automate all the tests that we have that are written in Jest and Cypress. In terms of hosting this application, we're using Azure to host our application. We're using a thing called App Service, which is a platform as a service that Azure offers. And we store images in the Azure storage account. Now, any data that we store is going to be stored in MongoDB, which is cloud-based. It stores it in documents. Alright, so whenever you log in for the first time to UMarket, you're going to be greeted with this welcome page. Essentially, this is going to walk you through the onboarding process in order to begin buying and selling items. You actually need to put in your address and log in with a PayPal account in order to be able to buy and sell shipping items. But if you decide to skip those, you will be able to still purchase items that are for local pickup. So for demonstration purposes, we're going to put in some address here. Let's see, we're going to do Ruston because we're in Louisiana Tech and we want to be in the United States. This is if we want to put in our address, but we can always skip this. But for the purpose of the demonstration, we're going to go ahead and continue with the next step. And then from here, it's going to ask us to continue with the PayPal onboarding. So for this, we're using a sandbox account, so these email accounts are not actually real. You can see that they're known by the SB. Once you log in, it's going to ask how we'll be using an account. For this demonstration, we're going to use it for personal use. Agree and connect. And then we go back to our store. And then once you log in, once you finish the onboarding process, you will be greeted with this website here.
So after you get to the homepage here, you are able to create a new product with the button on the left-hand side. You can choose a picture for the product that you're going to be listing, put in a title, a description, able to list the condition of the item, as well as the delivery method that you would like to specify for the item. And you're able to also pick the category that that item is going to fall under, which will help with the filtering of that item later on. Specify the price and the type of deal. After that, the item will be created and will appear in the listings now. So now you're able to filter for that item. So on the left-hand side there's a search bar as well as the manual filters as well. So you can type in the name of the item, search for it, or you can also use the filters in the category that that item is under as well. So if you click on a specific item, it will take you to the item page. You can see information about who is listing that item. If you click on that person's name, it will take you to their profile where you can see all of the items that that person has listed, as well as any ratings that they have received for previous items that they've sold, so that you can tell whether that person is a reliable seller or not.
So from the items page, we can go to the chat feature, and if you want to message the seller about a specific item, you can mention something like, hey, can you go lower on the shoes? Something like that. And this is going to be in real time, so Zach is going to respond to me in a minute.
Yeah, and I'll go ahead and respond right now to say no. I cannot. Send that.
Yep, and see, it just popped up right here.
Alright, and also we can buy items. We have them separate from shipping and in person. Right here is our shipping page. You can see you purchase from PayPal. Also, while Daniel's doing the PayPal purchasing, you note that we have a Venmo button, but that only works in the live environment. A reminder, this is all a sandbox environment, so that isn't possible. Yeah, so go ahead, Daniel purchases the item from PayPal. This is our shipping confirmation, shows you information about the order and the item. And now Daniel will go back and buy a in-person item. Yep, here you can see same page, but now it says pay in person. It doesn't have the PayPal or Venmo buttons. And we just take you straight to the order confirmation page with the item and description. And from here, we can go to Daniel's settings. And just a quick overview of this settings. We have general information, social media, payments, but we're going to focus on the Seller Hub and bought orders. From Daniel's perspective, we look at the bought orders, and you can go to the order confirmation page again if you want to by clicking on those links. But on those pages, there's just general information about the item that someone has bought. You can leave feedback or see feedback. And here you can see when Daniel leaves a rating, the pencil box will blacken out. That means that he sent feedback.
I had Zach purchase several items, and in my Seller Hub, you'll be able to see that he purchased 2 items, one for shipping and one for local pickup. Now for shipping, you have to create a shipping label, so we're going to go ahead and create the shipping label, and then when we want to go ahead and print it out, we see that it generates the shipping label. This is a sample because we're still using in sandbox accounts, but whenever we push this to a live environment, it will actually create the appropriate shipping labels. Now for pickup items, the way this will work is that whenever a buyer purchases a pickup item, the seller needs to send a QR code to the buyer, and then whenever they meet in person, the buyer would show the QR code or a 6-digit code to the seller, which will then be able to put it in. So I'm going to go ahead and send the code to the buyer. So we're going to quickly transition to Zach's screen, and he will show in his email account that he did in fact receive the QR code and the 6-digit code. Alright, so in here we can see that Zach has in fact received a QR code and a 6-digit code. Once me and him would meet in person, he'll be able to show me this code, and I can either scan the QR code with my phone, which will confirm that the transaction is complete, or I can enter the 6-digit code in order to complete the transaction. So in this case, the code is 640301. So in my Seller Hub, I have this space here. So if we enter a random code right now, it's going to say it's an incorrect code. But if we enter the correct code, 604301, or is it 640? My apologies. We click that, it's item picked up, and then we can mark it as paid, and the whole transaction now, the whole order is now complete. Alright, so with that, we concluded the demo. So why did we choose to use the tools that we used? To facilitate the overall development process, we went with Azure DevOps over something like Trello and GitHub, mainly because we wanted to keep everything together. We're already planning on hosting it on Azure, and so we wanted to also have our code in Azure, and we wanted to use the Azure DevOps that it provides in order to facilitate the overall process.
Yeah, and we use MongoDB to store the data of our application for a couple different reasons. One, that SQL is good for storing transactional data, which we don't require since PayPal handles transactions for us. And keep in mind that the main data we store for our application is text, which is unstructured data like user IDs, item IDs, and item descriptions. And so storing this unstructured data in MongoDB makes sense. We don't store any structured data like credit card names and numbers, which SQL databases are used for.
So for transactions, we used PayPal. We were thinking about using Stripe, but we wanted something that would allow us to facilitate transactions between a person to another person. And while Stripe is a quite a common API for a lot of developers to use, it did not offer a way for us to be able to facilitate transactions to person to person. It would allow us to do something like business to or person to business, which is not what we needed. PayPal, however, has an e-commerce platform that allows us to facilitate the process from person to person.
Yeah, and then we chose Node.js versus Ruby on Rails because a couple of our group members, such as Daniel, Tyler, and I, had a previous experience with Node.js, so it's easier for us to use. We were more familiar with it, and there's more demand for Node.js in the industry, so we decided to go with Node.js.
So for our front end, we used Vue.js. Some of the other choices that we thought of were using React or Angular, but we wanted something that was easy to use and didn't have as big of a learning curve, and also had the best of both worlds.
All right, so for some things that we'd like to develop in the future, the first thing would be a sales dashboard, similar to what you have on eBay, that would use data analysis to show some key performance indicators. Secondly, we'd like to have a dedicated mobile application Reason being, while our website does work on mobile devices right now, things could be formatted a lot better if we had a dedicated mobile application specifically made for this website. And lastly, we'd like to implement Google Maps API or something similar so that buyers and sellers would be more easily be able to agree on the location to pick up items without needing to use the chat to rely solely on deciding where they want to meet up.
All right, with that concludes our presentation. If you have any questions, please leave a comment down below. And with that, thank you.